Here in this Forest Acres community where it's eerily quiet, you can see the damage and destruction done to local businesses here.
Tomorrow, jurors will continue with video of Officer Wes Carrick in the interrogation room after he shot Jonathan Farrell.
Well, the actual viewing at the church here behind me ended at 9 o'clock. However, Honor Guard will be here inside the church.
That's right. CMS says their staff is now on par on how to support transgender students. They met with members of the media today so they could.
Gunfire, crowds running from tear gas. They killed that man! A stark contrast to the call for peaceful protest. Tempers escalated at CMPD headquarters just after 7 Wednesday evening. Some demanded to talk to officers inside. Earlier, protesters had productive dialogue with police.
We certainly don't want anybody out there who's feeling like they're not in the right place.
Right,
I understand that.
They then moved here in Marshall Park.
Right now, we're getting ready to march.
Where million youth march and activist leaders urge them to remain peaceful.
We want everybody to be able to voice their opinion safely.
The plan was to walk to AME Zion Church in Uptown for discussion. Instead, hundreds took a detour to the epicenter.
I'm here for the original statement, but, you know, if it gets too out of hand and standing on cars and, you know, throwing stuff at people's vehicle, I can't condone that.
As the crowd blocked traffic, police and riot gear stepped in to push them to sidewalk.
Y'all here to serve and protect, right?
Protesters frustrated police couldn't talk back on the street.
That would calm it all the way down, but not even speaking to me, not acting like he even hears what I'm saying, it hurts.
Among tear gas flashbangs, we heard the sound of gunfire. That was the shot that hit the protester in the head. Police say another protester was the gunman. The crowd ran for cover. Emotions uncontrollable.
It's just too much. Just the fact that we can't be ourselves. We can't be the people that we were born to be, and it's ridiculous. And then we ask for peaceful protest, and it turns into a mockery.
Courtney Francisco, WCCB News.
Food, fun, and excitement.
Me and my family normally come every year. We've been doing it for a while now.
Weather is great. It's nice. It's not too hot, just perfect. Having a great time.
On the surface, not much has changed.
Nice, kind of mellow, and people just enjoying themselves.
Still a large police presence. We even saw police dogs. For the first time in years, Speed Street was not declared an extraordinary event. It comes as City Council debates whether to scrap the ordinance that came about ahead of the DNC in 2012. An extraordinary event gives police more power to search people they deem suspicious. It also restricts people from wearing items like bandanas, scarves, and gas masks.
Them not deeming this an extraordinary event shows that the police can do what they already do, keep us safe. They do it well without infringing upon our rights.
Ray McKinnon and New South progressives have been pushing City Council to repeal the ordinance. Critics say it's too broad and can lead to profiling.
It's not necessarily that we want to take away any tools from police officers to keep us safe. Our concern is the overuse and the infringement upon folks' rights.
Supporters of the ordinance, though, argue the extra security measures are needed to keep people safe. And if council repeals it, they will also consider a new proposal that would give police authority to search people at any event with more than 50 people. That change would be controversial as well.
From the MTV VMAs.
As a pastor, it is my moral duty to speak out against racism, America's original sin.
To The View.
I want it to be said of me that there was a Lee in history who stood up for something that was right, instead of a General Lee who stood up for something that was wrong.
Reverend Rob Lee IV wants to shift the narrative.
If we remain silent, we are complicit in racism.
General Robert E. Lee's fourth great-nephew is 24 years old, a columnist for the local paper.
I was raised here in Statesville. I grew up in the shadow of this monument, walking by it as a kid and looking up at it, and I never had the context to even believe that it stands for something different than what we think here in the South is okay.
Lee was the pastor of a Winston-Salem church until he resigned last week after backlash from his VMA speech.
We can find inspiration in the Black Lives Matter movement, the women who marched in the Women's March in January, and especially Heather Heyer, who died fighting for her beliefs in Charlottesville.
Lee tells me he had concerns about centering himself, a white person, in the conversation about race, but came to this conclusion.
There are some people in this country that will only listen to other white people. And I think that's important for all of us in this movement to remember, is that we've got to bring people along with us. And so I viewed the VMAs as an opportunity to bring people along with us and have this conversation in a way that hasn't been had before.
The violence that erupted in Charlottesville was centered around the removal of a General Robert E. Lee statue. Reverend Lee believes it and others, including this Confederate soldier monument in downtown Statesville, should come down. He challenges those who disagree to do two things: ask a person of color what they think about the statues and learn the history of the statues.
The majority of the statues of Robert E. Lee and other Confederate generals in the stained glass in the National Cathedral weren't erected until the Jim Crow South. It wasn't right after the war. It wasn't celebrating the war heroes or the Confederate dead. It was celebrating white supremacy.
Lee, who has a Master's of Divinity degree from the Divinity School at Duke University, believes politics and the pulpit go firmly hand in hand.
I want to challenge your viewers to think about the last time they heard from a pulpit, racism is a sin. I want your viewers to think about the last time they heard from a white pulpit, white supremacy is evil, and it is not of God. And if they haven't heard that in a while, I don't think they're doing church right.
As for his ancestor, Reverend Lee describes the Confederate general as a, quote, murky character that history, even the Lee family, doesn't fully understand.
But ultimately, it comes down to what are we going to do now? Like, Robert E. Lee's been dead for a while. We need to move on. We need to move forward into God's unfolding future for us. And as a pastor, I'm convicted to tell that story, that in God we have more future than past.
Lee's hope is to continue the conversation and to get people to think.
You don't necessarily have to change your entire way of life, but you can change how you view the world and how the world might view you.
I think it's amazing. This is just gorgeous, and all the shops in here are wonderful. The music, it's great. We already bought 2 pounds of grits. Happy about it. A little Christmas ornament. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Shoppers getting a chance to spend their money locally.
Today you feel like you're being part of a community because you're going to the small businesses that operate in the community.
Jerry Brown owns Jazzy Cheesecakes inside of Atherton Mill Market and says Small Business Saturday really helps support local businesses.
This really gives us the exposure that we need. We've heard all day today that people didn't know that we were here. So having this type of exposure is great for us.
Rochelle Baxter of Queen City Pantry says she too looks forward to this day every year.
I love to see everybody out here keeping the money in our local economy, supporting other local vendors, and just the festivities and the energy in here is really great.
A sentiment felt throughout the day. Shop Local South End connecting vendors selling clothing, food, jewelry, decor, art, and more to customers who say they want to give back.
When I come down to North Carolina, I don't come here to shop at the box store, right? I want to shop at the little guys, and it's what makes the city special.
So like the moon was all black, and then you saw like the corona, which was beautiful.
A 14-hour drive from New York to Columbia, worth it for Eric Malillo and his granddad.
Because I always wanted it on my bucket list. It was always there. I said I want to take him with me, so we came down.
They're among thousands who set out on the roads immediately after the total eclipse, making for bumper-to-bumper traffic on I-77 North.
We were north of Columbia, so we thought we were going to beat everybody back, but I guess everybody thought the same thing.
Ceci Cabarer tells me she flew in from Puerto Rico to see her 4th solar eclipse.
We've been to Mexico, Africa, Black Sea, and now this one.
For those who didn't want to travel, hundreds gathered in Ballantyne.
That's pretty cool.
Jared Goldberg waited more than an hour for his pair of eclipse glasses.
It's once in a lifetime, so you got to do it.
As the sun dimmed, some were disappointed we didn't see the total eclipse in Charlotte.
I could tell it's kind of like almost there, but not really.
I thought it would be darker, but I had to take what I get.
But for those who traveled thousands of miles to the total eclipse zone, no regrets.
It was worth it all. It was worth it.